My name is Lauren McCalister, Lauren, little c, big C, Alister. Today I'm representing People's Cooperative Market out of Bloomington, Indiana. Right now, and since its inception, People's Cooperative Market, I've been a part of the planning committee. I've been a vendor, so we source from my farm, 3 Flag Farm. We offer a sustainable source of protein, but also specialty crops, so okra, sweet potatoes, blueberries, and mushrooms to the co-op. And I was an incorporator. So before we incorporated in 2021, we were operating as a farmer's market, and I was insistent, is a kind way to put it, of us shifting into a farmer-owned cooperative model, and therefore incorporating with 2 other people. So we were born out of protest. People's Cooperative Market started because there was a Nazi vendor at the city-run farmers market, and the presence of that vendor created protests. Although the members of People's Market didn't protest, those protests were a direct action, and we decided after the protest died down and all the white people were bored that we would just continue to do the work of Black food sovereignty. So since 2020, we've given out almost 10,000 bags of CSA food, local nutrient-dense food. We started centering Black and brown vendors. So in the beginning, we were taking any farmer that wanted to work with us, and then we started working with farmers throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois in order to provide Black, Indigenous, and producers of color a farmers market space, a learning space, but also just shared resources, ordering seeds together, going into grants and contracts together, but essentially feeding Black Lives Matter families. So we partner with Black Lives Matter Bloomington, and we've been serving those families for 4 years, every week, 52 weeks out of the year, since 2020. I think there's been a lot of negative response because we're holding space for Black food leadership, and unfortunately in Indiana, there's a stronghold around monocrops. Dairy is 100% white owned and 100% government subsidized. So there's a hard line about who can and should be farming in Indiana. But I think particularly we are an intersectional anti-racist farmers market. And so people say a lot in Indiana, you can either be Black or gay, but you certainly cannot be both. And so making the choice to center those voices and those lives that are directly impacted or mostly impacted by white supremacist, misogynist, misogynoir systems, I think really differentiates us for good and for bad. And so the negative feedback that we get is often rooted in scarcity models and fear that we as a community can be self-determined, but also actually own some of the food system, so the soil all the way to the plate. And so if you imagine, like if you close your eyes and think about the last meal that you ate, I know on my plate there was a sweet potato, there were strawberries, there were blueberries, there was some lettuce. Even when we consider the dairy that was on, where does that come from? And at first, we're thinking about our hands taking food from the plate into our mouths, but then we can take a step back and ask who brought that food to the plate, and then consider thinking what hands it took to prepare the food, and imagining those hands go home to their plates, right? But we imagine even deeper when we consider who's harvesting those pieces of our meal, right? Who's harvesting the sweet potato out of the ground? Who's picking the lettuce, washing it, so that another set of hands can prepare it? And we can go even further when we think about Black food sovereignty projects. Where do those seeds come from? Who planted those seeds? And even more importantly, who's been nourishing the soil so that those seeds could eventually break through their shell and reach above soil in order to create fruit, or in the case of a sweet potato, a beautiful purple flower. I think my favorite part is that we're constantly pushing towards learning circles and book groups. So Dr. Monica White came to Indiana University and we gave out free copies of her book, Freedom Farmers. But also throughout the year, we're putting together a list of political education research points. In 2021, 2022, and 2023, we worked on campus with some Black and Indigenous and people of color around food sovereignty on campuses. We did research with Black students on campus and asked them, what's it like to eat here? And we found out that a lot of those students are experiencing food insecurity and had to educate them around what food apartheid is. There's a lot of individual shame and blame that like, well, you're just not managing your budget well enough, or that you could be doing something differently, but their food insecurity is planned. It is a outcome of policies by the university. And for us to address that, we wanted to create a survey. And so the students were surveyed, we gave them interviews, and actually gave them a gift card to People's Cooperative Market as a reward, that like they would diversify their plate in order to shop at Kroger, but also choose a farmer's market, and specifically choose one that is working towards an intersectional anti-racist food system. I think the research really helped us understand that students want spices from their homes. They want to make meals that they're familiar with, and they don't have the kitchen space or the nutrient-dense supplies, the ingredients necessary to feel like they belong in our community. So that's been really important to us, that they understand their rights as students, but also the power they have to work together. Some of the students have limited resources, but when they purchase food together, they're actually making an economic choice to buy in bulk, to choose who they're sourcing from. I think that empowerment really educated them about the importance of pooling together their limited resources. We partner with First United. It's a church that their fellowship hall, one side of it is inside, and then we can open doors and there's a green space right outside. So we are, in fact, running a farmer's market 365, inside. But I think it operating only on Saturday gives us an impression that it's not operating during the week. It's just that Saturday is when we have the farmer's market. And so now we've created a growing space. We got a 30 by 90 high tunnel, and we've just moved 75 yards of soil into this enormous high tunnel in order for families to grow food, and their abundance would then be sold on site at the farmer's market. So there's an inside and an outside space. Yeah, I think initially getting the space from the church was huge. Next, we will be getting a farm number so that the location can be eligible for USDA grants, but also so that we are part of an archive. I think in 20 years, I would hope that our story is much more captured and retold, and that there are more storytellers in the co-op to talk about the benefits of working cooperatively. I think that this illusion of separation, especially in agriculture, makes us feel like, well, I have to own all the land myself and grow all the food for community and sell it that way. And instead, co-ownership or even co-stewardship of the land, the animals, and the people would really create a 200-year sustainability program. It concerns me a lot that we aren't addressing the underlying mitigating issue of climate change. And although we can spend a lot of time riding e-bikes, that's fine. It's not going to improve the soil. And so when I spoke earlier about soil to plate, it's really for us to understand that the nutrient value began hundreds of years ago when other people gave their lives, their literal bones to the soil. And that's what we're living off of now. So if we think in 200 years, then we'd have to give of ourselves today in all ways possible, including putting nutrients back into the soil, but specifically moving away from monocrops, moving away from CAFOs, and practices that are going to diminish the soil quality to a point that we won't be able to grow food ourselves.